Mental Health Warriors, I want to thank you for tuning in. I have a great show this week. I have Anthony, who is a great jiu-jitsu fighter. He has a dojo there in Illinois. I follow him on Instagram. We'll show his Instagram page up so you can follow him. Sickness 81?
Sickness 81.
Sickness 81. And he's got some great videos out there. And I tell you what, he is doing great things in Illinois. Not only with his jiu-jitsu, and he's got a great story as a veteran and a two-time deployer Marine. But he's really giving back to his community, and that's really why I asked him to come on. And you're going to hear his story and be so humbled about it. But when you get a chance, go out to veteranstrashtalk.com, look at all of our shows and podcasts we have out there, along with Mental Health Warrior. We have a lot of other ones. We also have a shop out there where you can get great t-shirts. You can get your Veteran Trash Talk Mental Health Warrior t-shirt. I say it all the time. It's the t-shirt that could save a life. Because if you look at the back of it, I have the crisis number, and you never know when you walk by somebody, they might be having an issue or problem and don't know to text that number, because anybody can call and it's free to get help. So with that, we're going to jump right into the conversation with Anthony.
So you touched on it a lot of kids and girls for self-defense, for one. That's huge for many reasons, obviously, because a lot of, bad people out there prey on the weak.
Yeah.
They're going to see me maybe with tattoos. They'll see my hair, cauliflower, if they even know what that is. You know what I mean, though? But if they see me and they see a girl that weighs 110 pounds, they're going to go try to rob the girl.
Yeah.
And I treat the girls just like I treat the guys at my place. I treat them just as hard as I do the guys. They train super hard because if you need it on the streets, I know we MMA fight. I know we do jiu-jitsu and compete, but it's all about what happens on the streets.
Yeah.
And I was never about starting fights. I never would start fights.
Yeah.
And I never want to use this in the streets either. I still haven't, just because I know, you can do some damage to people.
Yeah. Very
yeah. And, I don't want to, unless I need it to protect myself from anybody, my friends, my family, then, obviously. But people, they have guns. Everyone has guns. All over the place, and you got knives. You got to know how to defend yourself against all of that. Kids, they get bullied like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worse now with social media. Obviously, I didn't have that when I was in school, and I got picked on enough because I was small.
Yeah.
So it was rough.
I wrestled 98 pounds in high school, and then the head was 119. Of course, I'm 180 now, but I still worked out, but it happens.
Oh yeah, no, I was 117 in high school, and now I still cut down to 135 pounds.
Yeah,
if I have to compete. But yeah, it's huge for all that, and it's tough. The thing that's very tough is being for like an academy owner, is seeing people that don't give it a chance.
Yeah.
They'll train for a month. They'll be so excited. And then that's when it takes a lot of determination to show up in class.
Yeah.
Because everyone would want to, after work, you want to go home, you want to sleep, you want to eat, you want to do this. You don't want to do jiu-jitsu.
Right.
But then when you walk in the door, your life's just so much different. And we say it all the time, like, oh, I'm so happy I showed up, blah, blah, blah. And that's what's the hard part about martial arts, and showing up all the time and adding it to your daily, weekly routine, regardless how important your life gets.
Yeah.
Everyone has a busy life for the most part. And so it hurts me, especially when I know people need it, especially with the mental health.
Yeah.
Being a veteran, yes, I served in 03 to 07. I went to Iraq in 05 and 06. We went to Fallujah. We went to Ramadi.
He left right before I came in. My brother was in Iraq at that time, and then he left, and I went in 06 to 08.
Okay. Yeah, Yeah, '06 was my last time there.
So you
It
were,
was rough.
that was a mess back then.
It was '05 was the Battle of Fallujah, and we went there right as it was ending. And I was in Fallujah for 7 months then. We had patrol. It was a mess.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So then, I deployed for 7 months, somehow made it out of there, came back home for like 3 months, did some training, and then we went right back.
Yeah.
So it sucked. I mean, they didn't give us time to transition over. We didn't know what was going on. Our minds were so set on wartime. We didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
And it took me years after my second deployment to understand what, how damaging what it did to me.
Yeah.
With knowing it. Cause especially Marines, they teach us to keep everything in a way, not to show weakness, not to go say you need to talk to a therapist, or, they just, you're supposed to be a machine.
Yeah.
When you go in there and, that's it. And you kind of have to be.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But the transitioning after was very difficult.
That's, of course I'm a veteran, I'm a suicide survivor. I understand. Of course, my attempt and my issues were over because I was at Pentagon 9/11.
Yeah.
And dealing with that, and then of course deploying. But it is tough and it is hard because we're so mission focused, mission. Well, when you no longer have that mission and you're back home, how do you deal with that? And so many veterans like yourself and myself and others, and that's why Veterans Trash Talk exists, and that's why I have my podcast, is they don't have that outlet, or they don't know to go and talk to somebody. They don't, and so a lot of times they don't understand what they're going through. Right. And so you don't understand why you're angry all the time, or you don't understand why you can't sleep, or why this noise bothers you, or why this fucking thing drives you crazy. And it's hard to fit those pieces together. And that's why we're having such a hard time with so many suicides in the veteran community. And you came back, from what, 2 deployments, and then I don't know how much longer were you in the Marines after your second?
1 year, and they tried sending me back for a third time to try to sneak me in for like 4 or 5 months, and I was like, "Look, guys, I can't."
Yeah,
I'm like, my mind is not okay. The second deployment is when I got blown up, and I lost some friends. Like, it was bad. Like, Fallujah was bad enough, like, to get out of there alive, but the second time it shouldn't have been that bad. It was stupid where we were at, and that was the time we did a lot of bad shit happened that deployment. And that was the second time. So, like you said, I get out, I got a year left. I got to teach people how to drive Humvees for a year, and then that was it. Moved back home to Illinois. Got a job at a cable company for 8 years, and I did not get any help, and it was tough to do my job until I couldn't take it anymore. I just like snapped. Bad paths. You just didn't know. I had no idea about PTSD until like 3 years later.
Wow. Have you done any of your VA stuff?
Yes. Okay. So I'm 100% disabled. Disabled. Yeah. For the first time, they gave me like 10%, 20%, 30%, and then they stopped. And then it was a 12-year battle every year. Yeah. Because I knew I wasn't okay. Yeah. I don't like asking for stuff, but the therapist at the time was like, "You got a lot of PTSD and you don't even know." Yeah. I was like, "No, I don't. I'm fine. It's fine to be angry and not sleep, and I still am on the hours that I'm on in the military. I still stay awake and get wide awake at night. And in the day, it's kind of like, lollygagging. But the nighttime, I wake up. That's when we would go on our missions a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of stuck with me. It's been my schedule ever since.
Yeah. When you transitioned out of the Marines at that time, and I'm sure then is you just kind of like everybody else does, right? You breeze through the questions and you say, yeah, I'm fine, I'm okay, get the check mark and get the fuck out and move on. But what was it? So if I'm a person and I'm watching and I'm you and I'm going what you went through, what was it at that moment that made you decide that you needed to go get help or you needed to change what was going on in your life? What was that moment that you had that happened? Because everybody has that moment, right? I had that moment. Guys on Veteran Trash Talk, they'll talk about that moment. And as a Marine, and if there's other Marines watching, and I know there will be, what was that moment, or what happened to you to finally decide I got to change this cycle?
I remember it. It's probably about 8 years later. I mean, I knew I had PTSD at the moment when I was working at the cable job because I'm divorced. I was in marriage therapy, and the marriage therapist was a veterans therapist, luckily. And she, like, instead of the whole couples thing, she was so focused on me, like, you got to go see somebody for PTSD. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. I have before, never helped in the military. So I was traveling to California. I went by myself, which, it's tough, but I went to do a competition. I believe it was like 2016-ish. And I just remember I lost really quick. And that nighttime, I was all by myself. I started drinking, which, I'm not a drinker. I haven't drank in 3 years, but that's why I don't like to drink, because I go into some bad places.
Yeah.
So I just remember I wasn't thinking the best thoughts that one night walking around. And some guy kind of noticed me not doing too well, or I must have been drunk. And I didn't even want to be alive at that point. I was just like, this sucks. Life kind of blows. I have nowhere to go. Like, it started eating at me.
Yeah.
And some former military guy who had a service dog saw me, and he started talking to me, brought me to meet his dog, which I needed. It was a pit bull. And he brought me to his car. He's like, look, you get a service dog when you go home. He just told me everything about service dogs, which I do have a service dog now, which helps tremendously. But he gave me therapy info, and that's when I started seeing therapy in Illinois. And this was in California.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for that guy seeing me, I don't even know why I ran into him. It was very weird. He asked if I was a veteran. And maybe I had a military shirt on. I don't remember why he asked that. But
by the look, by how somebody looks.
Yeah. And he just knew. He knew. And he knew I wasn't doing good. That's for sure. But that kind of like threw my ass for a loop. I'm like, damn, I need some help.
Yeah.
I need to figure something out, because I'm not headed, because it's not getting better.
Yeah.
I should be happier as life goes on, but yeah, it was tough. That was the time.
I know what it's like. My brother got a funny feeling at work, and he called, and I didn't answer the phone. He rushed home. Of course, I was unconscious on the couch. I mean, I got as close to succeeding as you can get without succeeding, and he was able to save my life. And my biggest concern, or what scares me the most about that night, is I don't know what triggered me. I know I was feeling guilty. I know I was drinking about not finding anybody alive, and this was in 2002. And all that just all kind of came together, and it was kind of like you were walking down that path, and had that guy not walked up to you or said something, and I don't know if you're a religious guy, but I believe sometimes God intervenes at that moment, and he was, you were meant to see him.
Yeah.
It's sad though, but until you get to that point, it's hard to go and ask for help, right? I never did. I was command directed. I was still in uniform. I was command directed to go to counseling. Well, what do you think I did in counseling? I fucking lied to that therapist. I was damn good at it because all I wanted to do was get that check.
Yeah.
And that was the complete wrong thing to do. Now, after my suicide attempt, I had a whole different idea about going back into therapy.
Oh yeah.
The hard thing with therapy, though, and I talk about this, and you probably agree with me. It's hard to get a connection sometimes with therapists. And sometimes people try to stick with that one therapist instead of going and trying to find somebody else that maybe you can have that connection with.
Absolutely.
If you don't have that connection, it's hard to get through the walls.
Oh yeah. I had a therapist fall asleep on me many times. I just would start drifting off and I'm like, the fuck? I didn't tell the truth for years.
Yeah.
Even when I went to therapy, it took me, the guy was like, I knew you had so much to say, but he's like, I just gave you like a year where you were just like, I'm fine. Like, it was just like, okay, blah, blah, blah. He knew it. I had to bring it out and say it. So once I finally did, I was like, okay. But yeah, I wouldn't like to talk about stuff. And I would just lie. Yeah. I'd be like, yeah, I'm fine. Because they, some of them, if they don't seem like they give a shit, I don't want to waste my time.
Yeah.
So I have
the hard part.
Yeah, is finding somebody that seems like they give a damn.
Yeah.
Which I did.
Go ahead.
Which I did find.
Yeah. Well, and I tell you, and you probably relate to this, that moment where you finally open up and talk about something that's been weighing on you for a long time, right? And I'm sure you have multiple stories or multiple issues. That it feels just like a big weight being lifted off your chest. And it doesn't end there. You still have to find things to deal with PTSD when something comes back in your mind, right? I explain this to people all the time about PTSD. What is it like? And I tell them all the time, it's like the most vivid dream you've ever had in your life, and it comes back in a second. And it could just be the wind blowing a funny way. Smells bother me. It could be a stick snapping or driving down the road and a rock hits the windshield of your car. And it's when those moments hit, it's when you have to have those different tools in your toolbox to deal with those emotions at that time. It's just like, I wrestled and you do jiu-jitsu, it's just like getting your mind right before you step on that mat and before that thing. Because if you're not, just like you said, in that day in California, your mind wasn't there. And that's why you lost quickly, right? And you were, if your mind's not right, you're going to lose quickly. So you got to have those tools to kind of get your mind refocused and back in. And I think that's, with what you do with jiu-jitsu and things like that, I think that's, important to people because it gives you an outlet, right? Whether you do competitions or not, or you just go to roll around on the mat to get your frustrations out of the day, it's all good. It's an outlet. And I think sometimes people get that. I did jiu-jitsu for a while, just because my son was doing it, just to kind of roll around and things like that. But I was never going to do a tournament or anything. I'm 52 years old. I'm not going to do that. But I enjoyed just rolling around on the mat with him because that's what he was doing. And it just gave me an outlet for the day. And sometimes I think people forget that, and so if I'm a guy or I'm a girl or whatever, and I come to your facility, your dojo, your academy that you have there, and you have what, 2 of them in Illinois now, 2 or 3? Yeah, 3 of them.
Yeah,
3 of them.
I'm moving to my third school. I'm moving to my third school, so it's just my school, but we're going to our third school already, so we're moving again. To a bigger
school,
expanding,
awesome.
Yeah, you hit on it, and it's the outlet, because when you're in jiu-jitsu, it's so complex. You don't get to think about what's stressing you out. You don't get to think about what happened an hour earlier, what's going to happen afterwards. You can't, because you have somebody trying to choke you unconscious.
Or break your arm, dislocate your shoulder.
Exactly. And to me, the biggest thing is just making them feel comfortable. If I know they have anxiety issues before anything, it's just making them feel comfortable, all the people there. So you're not a stranger. on the mat. Like you're so I try to make everybody feel as welcome as possible because I know how it feels.
Yeah.
And how it's hard to stay with something if you don't feel like you're in a family type environment. And I don't care if anybody competes. I don't care if they do it just for exercise. But the main thing is self-defense and then mental health. I believe every veteran should be doing some sort of MMA, jiu-jitsu, boxing. You gotta have a release, or else you're just gonna explode inside, and it's just gonna be too late. It's been 15 years of doing this, and I couldn't imagine. I mean, if during COVID when I had to train at my house only, I was gonna go like it was sneaking, but my demons were sneaking back towards me because it was such a depressing time. For one, it reminded me of the military because we kind of had nothing. That's how it was in Iraq, where we didn't get to just go to a grocery store. We didn't get to talk about toilet paper. We were happy to have toilet paper. Like it shows how I don't know, spoiled everybody is, but at the same time, in the military, we just weren't spoiled. We saw the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have different mindsets too.
Yeah.
And that's a tough part of transitioning, is the mindset of what we've been through, and then we see what a lot of people over here complain about. And it's just like, are you serious? You're gonna be upset over something like that? It doesn't even affect you, but I'll give you something to complain about. You should see what. But people don't get it. And I'm not going to try to one up people. It's not about that. I know what I've been through.
Yeah.
I know that I did good, regardless of whatever happened, or, what people's thoughts of war are. I know that I did good. I know that I did my job.
Yeah.
And that's all I could be happy for. The government is always going to be the government, but we had to stick out for our friends and who we were with during those times.
That's why we joined the military. I did 34 years in the military.
No, I can't imagine. I just talked to people about doing 20 years. I'm just like, I don't know how. It's so hard.
Yeah, it's of course I was a warrant officer, but I mean, it's tough and it's hard. And it's for veterans out there, and for people who serve in the military, currently serving, we do that for the love of our country, right? And war is hell. There's nothing glorified about it. You'll see shit that no human is supposed to see in their lifetime. And then how do you deal and talk about it? Right. I mean, we recovered helicopters, and I try to keep the younger soldiers away from it. And I would go and inventory it, do whatever, because I knew what was inside of it. And I wanted to protect them from that, right? Because I didn't want them to have, I know what PTSD was, because 4 years earlier, I tried to kill myself over it, and so I tried to protect my soldiers as much as you can. You can't always do it, but
no.
And then when you bring back injuries from being deployed, it makes it even harder, because then when you can't do the things you normally could do before, it always brings it back, right? And I always say PTSD is like the best sniper in the world, right? Because it's in your mind. You can't get rid of your mind, and it's going to lay back there, just like you were saying with COVID. You were at home, you're isolated, and that, just like a sniper, it just kind of sneaks its way back in, and it pounces on you at your weakest moment, not at your strongest moment. At your strongest moment, it doesn't bother you. It's when you're tired, or it's when suddenly your money flows different, or you have a car accident, or your kids are being stupid, or you're fighting with your wife, or whatever. It's going to sneak in when your mind's not there, where your mind's not.
Absolutely.
And, what do you do then? Well, you go to your academy and you roll around on the mat and you get your mind back right? Or whatever you do, whatever your outlet is.
Absolutely. I couldn't imagine. I always say jiu-jitsu saved my life, and I think it has. And I don't know where I would be without it, because lifting weights wasn't getting me anywhere.
Yeah.
That's not the same. Yeah. Not at all. Like you got to be distracted. You got to be, and you got to have, like, a lot of us are antisocial, like military. We don't want to be around people. Because like you said, triggers, anything could trigger you.
Yeah.
Car doors trigger me. If I don't see a car door shutting, it'll make me jump. And then I'm like, I get pissed off. I'm like, why am I pissed off?
Yeah.
You know, or like you said, the wind blows, or I get that smell at nighttime. I'm like, man, I'm in Iraq, and you just forget where the hell you're at.
Yeah.
And you got to come back to reality. So when I'm in the gym, I don't think about I'm in Iraq.
Yeah.
You know, I think about my job is to make my students happy, to make them mentally happy. I have veterans, I have police, and the police, they deal with a lot of the same shit we deal with, not worse because they're in longer too, most of them.
Yeah.
And I hear the stories, and it's you know, I've been hearing the police stories for over 15 years now. Chicago cops to cops in Elmhurst.
You know, my wife, she was, you know, she's Navy. She lived in Chicago for 4 years in Great Lakes.
Okay, yeah, Great Lakes.
Yeah, but she
Yeah.
lived she lived 30 miles outside of Chicago. I forget what town, but her neighbor was a cop. And you know, we used to always sit outside and talk and everything. And I to be a policeman nowadays, my heart goes out to them. You know, and what these guys try and do every day. And I've had friends of mine that were police officers or highway patrolmen, and you know, it's just like when you're deployed, you don't know if you're going to see the next day or not.
No, because it could be over in half a second.
Yeah.
You don't know you're gonna get blown up by a bomb that day. You don't know you're gonna get shot at by some angry people. You know, you just don't know. And I know a few of my good friends, good buddies, just became cops, and I'm just, man, they can't. You know, you can't do what you're supposed to do. And the cops are at such a disadvantage.
Yeah.
It's a shame seeing, and that's another thing that I would talk to my therapist about too when COVID first happened, is because we were home watching TV, so it's nothing but politics.
Yeah.
And the more you watch about stuff happening in this country, especially when we fought for this country, makes me sick to my stomach.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It makes me, it's one of the things that I think makes me the angriest out of everything. But God forbid, you know, then you offend somebody if you say the wrong thing. But that's how I always been. You know, I'm straightforward. It's hard to explain to people to see what we mean by how stupid this country has gotten in a lot of areas, and that is hard for me. And that's why the gym, we could combine everybody and not have to deal with what's going on outside. Let's all be friends in here. I don't care if you agree with me or don't agree with me. We're there to train, man. Like, I don't give a damn about your politics. We're training.
Yeah.
You know, don't let it ruin what you have going on.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the same mindset as somebody, you're not gonna have the same experiences. We've been through so much different than all these new kids that haven't seen war.
Yeah.
Haven't seen the military.
Yeah.
That's the first thing, just enlisting. That's you know, stressful enough.
Yeah.
Imagine going to war with that.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish everyone had to be in the military for 2 years after high school.
I think so. You know, I joined in 1987 in junior in high school when I went to basic training. And I retired last year, August 31st, 2021, I retired.
Unbelievable.
But you think about it. So all that time that I was in, you know, we didn't have any wars, right? You only had the Vietnam vets that had the patch on their shoulder, right?
Yeah.
You know, and so we didn't know. But then, you know, so then what was it, 2000? So 2002. So, you know, I'd been in for a long time before the wars kicked off. So I'd already been in for 13, 14 years, you know.
That's true.
You know, you or others who joined during the war when they were going on, you guys go to basic training, your AIT, then you're right over there.
I went after my basic training. Then I went to my training. I remember going to my duty station in Lejeune, and the staff sergeant on deck or whatever, and it's sad to say he actually killed himself about 3 years ago, and I didn't even know.
Wow.
He was just a staff sergeant. He was a staff sergeant when I was a PFC. You know, when I was right my first day at the duty station, he deployed twice with us.
Yeah.
But he's like, I hope you're ready, Marine. We're going to Iraq. I'm like, what? Can I unpack my shit?
Wow.
So that was the reality. I ended up not going 2 months later. I went 7 months later. So he was just trying to scare me, but not scare me, just get me ready.
Yeah.
Because I did go right away. So we basically just trained to go to Iraq.
Yeah. That's all they were doing.
Yeah, we didn't do anything else.
And
we
then
didn't do it.
well, and then, you know, they started harping as the war started winding down. You know, here's the thing that we have with officers in the military, some of them. The younger officers only knew war. They didn't know how to operate in a garrison environment. That's why the military has some issues now, right? And so you have these, they're not kids anymore, but now they're majors, lieutenant colonels, and colonels who grew up in war.
Yeah.
And now they struggle in garrison because they don't know how to do it.
Yeah, what do you do? Yeah, you got to work a regular job.
Yeah. And then you got, you know, all these kids with mental health issues and all this other stuff going on that never even deployed. And then, so it's, you know, the Army's doing a flip now, you know, and they're struggling with it, just like everybody's struggling with mental health and other things. It's tough. But I did a speaking event down at Camp Lejeune back in 2017. I went down there and I think I spoke to like 1,500 Marines. I did a couple of sessions down there. But I had actually went to the hospital and visited 3 Marines that had attempted suicide. And then the one guy had attempted twice. This was the second time. And I sat down, and of course they're trying to figure out, well, why is it? Because I was in uniform. Why is this Army guy coming in? They didn't know nothing about me.
Yeah.
And I walked in the hospital because the lady, my caretaker, when I was there, the general had his aide take me around, and I said, "Hey, is there anybody in the hospital that's attempted?" And she says, "Yeah, we got 3 Marines." And I said, "Well, can I go talk to them?" And it took a day to get it cleared for me to go in and talk to them.
Yeah.
I don't understand that none, and they allowed it. But these guys had no idea who I was. And this one guy, he was sitting there, man, his hands were just white. He's clenching them as we were talking. And then I started telling him about my road and my path. And he just kind of relaxed. And then he just opened up, the guy that attempted twice. And when I left there, one of the doctors said that I was the only one to ever connect with him. That he and it goes back to having similar stories. You know, we veterans don't talk about things because we don't want to spend 2 hours explaining to somebody why we had to do what we did. If you're telling me your story, you don't have to give me the backstory. I already know what you're fucking doing. Right. Yeah. You know, and I'm not going to judge you because I've been there, or if I wasn't there, I still understand it. You know, as a veteran, we all understand that. Anybody that served in the military, whether you've been to war or not, you understand it and you get it. But these people nowadays, you know, I tell my son all the time, and I used to tell coworkers this, they get all pissed over anything. I'm like, what are you mad about? Ain't nobody shooting at you. Ain't no bombs coming in. So what if you got to sit in fucking traffic for 30 minutes?
I know.
Chances of going home are pretty damn good.
Yeah.
You lose perspective sometimes. And these some of these weaker people, not weaker, but people with different views or whatever, and what they think bothers them, it just blows my mind. And it's frustrating, just like you were saying.
People are bothered by they worry about if someone says something.
Yeah.
And
then social media, when you were talking about that, you know, I have an 18-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I don't understand bullying on social media, but I have to understand this. I had to start doing speaking events. I had to add this into my speaking events because I don't understand how somebody could say something online and it'll drive a kid to complete suicide. But I got to understand it because I have kids and they're living it. And so it's like I tell my son, I was like, if somebody says something bad about you on social media and you know the kid and he goes to your school, go fucking talk to him.
Yeah.
Go get in his face. Because I guarantee he ain't going to say it to you in your face.
No, everybody wants to talk on the internet because they know you're not going to see the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the worst part about it.
The other day, too many people run their mouth because they haven't been punched in the face.
Mike Tyson, yeah. I just see that meme everywhere, and it is true. And you can't let, I mean, I've been victim to this. You let people say stuff and it affects you, but who are these people? They don't know me. They don't know anything about me other than what they see on my bio, and there's no point to waste your time because you're not going to explain to somebody or get them to see your point, because they're very weak-minded people.
Yeah.
And they'll watch the news all day and just be like, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
That's that's exactly what's going on. I'm not going to go outside for 2 years, but I know that's what's going on. I got to listen to everybody says on TV.
Yeah.
And there's so many labels and there's just so much bullshit going on. And that it really does piss me off. And it be just knowing what we sacrificed for these ignorant older people, these ignorant kids that are growing up, just anti police, anti-military.
The problem with that is?
It drives me sick. I'm trying to watch what I say.
Socialism, we need communism. Well, you know what? They probably haven't left their 4-county area and they have not a fucking clue what that means. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a communist country and you're a billionaire, a big business, you don't care whether that country is communist, capitalist, or whatever, because it's not going to affect you.
Yeah.
But it's going to affect all the other. Look at Venezuela. Venezuela is a perfect example. Venezuela was a very wealthy, well-to-do country. My wife's from Trinidad, and her aunt used to talk about, because it's 8 miles away from Trinidad, they would go over there for the healthcare because it was so much better than their own country.
Yeah.
And now it's a crap hole over there.
The hell, money's nothing anymore. They aren't in money. There's no money. Money's nothing. And I have some students that came from communist places as well, and they're like, man, people just don't get it. They just don't get it. They don't know what. I mean, I don't know how you don't get it, because in every history class we're taught.
That's the problem, though. They've dumbed down history too much. I think that's one good thing COVID had brought to light for a lot of parents, is they realized what schools were teaching and what they're not.
Yeah, I didn't know they were teaching any of that bullshit they were teaching.
Yeah.
I did. Unbelievable. I thought you should just teach the regular history. You teach us about history. Just like when I was in school, we got all the horrible stuff, the wars, slavery, Hitler, those were the big ass things, and all the wars. They don't need to be talking about anything else. They just need to tell us the facts of what we know, what the hell happened. I don't want to hear your views as a teacher.
Yeah.
It's not about your views. It's about what the hell happened, is what happened in real life.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these kids are coming out of school with all this hate, or thinking the country owes them something.
Yeah.
Country doesn't owe you shit. Doesn't owe you shit, because if that was the case, then this country would be pretty damn good if we were all, and this country's great compared to pretty much any other country I'd want to live
in.
at.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
I mean,
but think about it. Look, you were in the military, you got out, you run a successful dojo, you're on your 3rd school. You didn't get that because somebody handed it to you. You got that because you work and sacrifice.
I had $0, $0. And like 3-4 years ago, like I tell you, like the suicide wanting to off, it was only like 5 years ago. Yeah. I lost my job at the cable company because I lost my mind. I couldn't take it anymore. I going in people's homes, and it get my PTSD so much worse. And again, I was hiding it. But when you go in some very bad neighborhoods and you see some bad abuse, it fucking brings me right back to, I don't even know what anything is anymore. What's normal?
Yeah.
I didn't know what normal was.
Yeah. That's the hard thing, is remember what normal is again. And people,
sometimes you don't realize it. And I think people during the whole COVID thing still don't know what normal is.
No.
They're not strong-minded people. They're not. And you have to be, because in the military, you had to be.
Yeah.
You have to. You just, it's, I don't know. So it's shitty to see so many people. I know it's the majority of people are great people in this country.
Yeah.
It's just the loud ones are the minority of people.
Yeah. Well, and
And
that's with everything, right? You even see that in military, right? You
oh yeah,
they,
the ones that bitched and cried and
yeah,
I don't
complain.
want to deploy. I'll go do this to get in trouble so I don't have to deploy. I'll go to the brig.
Yeah.
Shithead military people, just like they're shithead people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Um, every profession,
Yeah.
every profession.
It's like
But
I tell my son, he was complaining about one of his teachers, and I told Junior, I said, you got to learn to deal with it, because in life you're going to have that. You're going to have
uh,
that supervisor. You're going to have that whomever, and you're going to have to learn how to deal and work with that person. And I
yep,
said, yeah, sure. Dad can go talk to the school and lay into the teacher and blah, blah, blah. But son, you're 18 years old. It's time for you to figure that out. Now, if it would have got too serious, I obviously would have.
yeah,
But I mean, it was just so, he needed to go and man up and go take care of it. And he went and did. And he's taking care
yeah.
of But how many parents don't do that, right?
Uh, par- Parents aren't like with them mentally. Their kids.
Yeah.
You got to be with your, not be. You got to know. You got to be in their lives. Because there's so many misdirection people out there.
Yeah.
That just need to be pointed in the direction, or they don't want to talk either.
Mm-hmm.
And you hold everything in until you're 18, 20 years old, you're going to go crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
That's one good thing, we talked about it because you and I talk on Instagram, usually late at night.
yeah.
But,
Oh, that's my hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is my whole family, we just naturally night owls. We naturally operate better at night. And we're just geared that way. That's just how our bodies are. Right. So everybody's different. Right. But, I brought up one good thing when you had pictures of your kids doing coming to your academy. And it's so important because people always talk about, I had a lady on, Linda, a couple of podcasts ago, and, her daughter completed suicide and she's done some wonderful things since then.
Good.
But, her big thing is kids learn how to survive. They're resilient because that's their mindset. That doesn't mean that you can keep dumping crap on them. Just like you said, you can't hold everything in. And then by the time you're 18, 20, you're going to lose your mind.
Yeah.
And, for Taekwondo, jujitsu, karate, whatever it is, soccer, sports in general, these kids need to get out there and do that and find, and even if it's band or marching band or something, these kids need to find activities where they're social, where they're doing something, and where they need to work and accomplish and see something at the end. And I just like Lloyd gets upset sometimes when he doesn't win. Like, well, suck it up and train harder, son.
Yeah.
Junior, he used to enter fishing tournaments, and there's one year he won, and the next year he didn't get a trophy, and he was upset by it. I'm like, well, fish more, whatever. Yeah. You work harder. That's the same with his Taekwondo, with his black belts. He didn't earn those by not working hard. Right. And so when those kids learn that, when they come to your studio, when they're training and they're rolling around, and when you start jujitsu, you get your ass kicked, right? Unless you have a wrestling background. It's just how it is. Don Bogino talks about that. And these kids come in there, but as they come in, they come to your dojo, they don't know anything. And you probably see it. And correct me if I'm wrong. The longer they come, their confidence level increases as their skill level increases.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's crazy to see where some of them have gotten. I remember when they walked through the door, I'm like, oh, they're not going to make it. Or like just thinking to myself, like, oh, they're not going to last. And now they're with me 4 years.
Yeah.
And then I have the students that I'm like, oh, these guys are going to be with me forever. They're awesome. Nope. And they're gone. And that's mentality and ego. A lot of that's ego mentality. And the kids, it's so damn important for kids, like you said, to socialize them. Oh my, I couldn't imagine, you see these school shooters and what are the things, that happens to it is they, they lose track of everything.
Yeah.
you know, the kids need to be social. A lot of them, they don't have the ones that commit those horrible things. They don't have a family. They don't have socialization.
Yeah.
So yeah,